Hello. Hello. Say greetings from another world to the other world in this realm. Welcome to these teachings and this time of truth seeking. You are about to be amazed. Hi. Okay. So, today's video, very exciting stuff. Okay, I wrote it down like 5 times. It's inside. So, I'm mostly going off of memory. So, what have we been talking about? Well, we're in a new month. So, we're in August. Oh, that's right. And I brought it out here. Yay! We're in a new month. We're in August. And so, we're going to talk about the 9-day calendar. Okay, we're going to talk about the 9-day calendar and some other things. Okay, so I did some research. Now, if you multiply, okay, so on the 9-day calendar, that now I call the 9-day calendar because if you look into gematria, if you look into the history of calendars, there's actually a Sibyl's name who is gematria, and also gematria, and I think rhetorica. So rhetoric, these were Sibyl's. Okay, these were Sibyl's. These things are named after Sibyl's. Why? And why do I keep saying Sibyl's? Because they were magical. They were magic. Almost doesn't suffice. These were beings who were so skilled and so tapped in that things are named after them. They literally created them. They brought them into this realm. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get downloads from the great cosmic mother and from the great cosmic mind and spirit, and we are supposed to bring them down into this realm. Is the download I'm getting. That's what we're supposed to do. Okay. So the magic, all the information originally came from the great mothers, the Sibyls, the sisters, the dog stars, the daughters. Sirius's name, before it was given the name Sirius, was Sopdet, which is feminine, and also Wajet. And Wajet goes back to Anput. And oh my gosh. So everything goes back to the Great Mother. Everything goes back to the Divine Feminine. With that magic and understanding, so these women and prophetesses also understood the nervous system. So I guess that's going to be included in this because I've recently been sharing videos about healing the nervous system. I've been sharing videos for years about the giant spell on the planet, and I did a video a few years ago about compensation and how our mind compensates. Well, I was on to it, but compensation is actually compensation is the word I'm using to describe what my nervous system is actually doing. What our nervous systems are actually doing. Our nervous systems are trying to assess the situation or the information and then decide whether it is beneficial, unbeneficial for our safety. And if something isn't outright showing us that it's dangerous, through also the programming, what I consider religion, separating us from the Divine Feminine, tricks us into compensating. Because if you are told you're not supposed to ask questions, that Eve is bad, and that there's a male God, and everyone agrees, and you're literally told not to ask questions, your mind is going to compensate because the logic isn't being upheld. So your mind will say, okay, this must be true then. And I will act and follow and read and believe and speak in the way that upholds this and supports it. Okay? So this brings me back to the 9-day calendar. Before calendars, there was following the stars and the moon and the sun and the seasons and ourselves, specifically the great mothers. Now, if you haven't heard me, I like to share with you guys people that I've found on YouTube that I think are extremely intelligent, have great information. Some people I still follow, some people I don't, but throughout my videos, I've mentioned both men and women. Recently, I was introduced to Cassandra Floyd, and there's a video she recently did about menstruation, our periods, and the power of the womb. And so you can put in her name, or you can look up at Daughter of the Fates. You got to put in at Daughter of the Fates on YouTube and find those videos, because she basically is reading out of some anthropological and scientific books, proving what I've also read out of similar anthropological and scientific books, and also some downloads about who and how and why we kept time, so to speak. And so what you will mostly see are notches depicting the woman's period. Did it happen to match the moon? Yes, it did. Did it happen to match a lot of things that were aligned in nature? Yes, it did. But mainly it was in a time of awareness where we as women were the matriarchs, are the matriarchs, were the heads of clans and groups and tribes. And so we pay close attention to all these things, specifically time. So we take that information and we link it with the moon, because yes, again, it does. It matches the moon cycle. And the moon cycle, if you break it down, comes down to a 6 number, I think. I've had some debates. Some people round it up to 19. It's not. It's 18.6 from what the science says, because it might be just 18. And if you pay attention to certain religions, even in Catholicism, I believe it's like 108 times you say certain things. That equals 9. Certain pages, 117, that equals 9. And a lot of things that I've practiced that are Asian, you do it 9 times. Or, Eastern medicine, like feng shui. I'm sorry. Well, maybe feng shui, but that's not what I meant to say. Like qigong and certain postures, they have you do them 9 times, not 7. And so this is where I still have some questioning about certain things, where they still go back to the number 7, because the divine number is 9. But I do see a lot of intermixing of 7 and 3. And I think there is 7 times 9 comes back to 9, I believe. I could be wrong, but everything comes back to 9 when it's multiplied by 9. Okay. So, what I recently researched about the 9-day calendar. If you take, so it would be 13 moons with the 9-day, 3 weeks of 9 days. Okay? So you see 3, and I think 6 is in there somewhere. 9, 3, 6, 9. You see this. Right when I said that, it was 939 on my recording. And that equals 900, no. I'm going to take a breath because I'm excited. If you take 13 times, so it would be, yeah, 13 times 9, right? 13 times 3 times 9 equals 351. So it equals 9, right? So we know that that's correct. So 351 is 14 days shorter than our days right now. So what I've been doing is the reason also why I wanted to do this video is because the new moon is on the 15th and today is the 13th. So in 2 days, no, new moon starts tomorrow. So in 2 days, tomorrow we start the new moon, and according to the old information of the calendar, we started the new month on the new moon. Well, sometimes if you do the 3 weeks of 9 days, it doesn't land on the new moon. But I do notice that our sky is, well, at least over here, I don't know where the moon is, but you still can't see it. So do we actually have a longer new moon? Okay, so I've been doing like days out of time. So starting Friday and then including today would be days out of time, because the Mayans practiced days out of time, and this was just a download from the planet that was like, we didn't practice time, we just recognized the cycle of the moon. So these days that we couldn't see the moon but we knew a new moon was coming, we would have days out of time, or days out of the moon, so to speak. I don't know how to describe it. That's just the down that I got. And this is how I've been practicing it. And it seems to work because it matches certain energies and dates and planets. And when you're doing the regular astrology that goes with the Gregorian 7-day calendar and 12-month calendar, it still matches. The numbers match. And that's why I mentioned gematria, because numbers carry a vibration, as well as sound carries a vibration, as well as thought patterns carry a vibration. This is all part of it. This is why I brought up compensation. This is why I went all the way into the nervous system. Because if you can download and program people to think and act a certain way, they're going to have no idea what is actually going on. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the people who created the calendars, they know what's going on, and they want it that way. So, there's more than 14 days I'm missing out here, but, I don't know. I don't know how they're calculating that 351, because there's definitely more than 14 days. If I'm doing 2 to 3 days a month of time out, that's like 20 something days, right? So is that right? So then I was like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not doing this right. So then I started incorporating, if we started it, instead of doing day out of time, we just continue with the 9 days and see what happened. And I did see some matchings. And then I thought, are they doing all three? So they would do because we know like China and most Islamic countries practice a moon calendar. Like the Chinese New Year is in February. Why? Because it's the first new moon of the year. Of their year. And that's when the cycle starts over. And and then Ramadan. And I actually think Hanukkah is based on the moon, not the sun. So there's that part. So there's definitely a moon calendar. We should just get one. I thought I got one. It's a little confusing the way they write it. That's not a good excuse. So we'll start. I'm going to share both with you for today. because I do find this interesting. So, instead of the Friday, Saturday, and today being days out of time, they would start over. And as I said, I include each planet that we're calculated to be aware of. That because we have 9 planets, and I start with Earth. So Friday would have been Earth Day, not a day out. But just keep that in mind. Like maybe a day out, maybe Earth Day. Saturday would have been Mercury Day, which is very interesting. Specifically, what's going on in other places, and I don't want to. I'm learning like they want. Anyhow, we would have had Saturn and Mercury energy that day, with Pluto in retrograde apparently. And then today would be Venus, and it's also the 13th. So I found that interesting because that kind of matches. And then tomorrow would be the first day of the new moon, and it would be Mars rather than Earth. I messed up. When I got fixed up. Put down tomorrow was the first day of the new moon. So, but I got it right to today. I got it right to today and tomorrow. I just have the names wrong. But this is part of what's happening right now. So also like this leads into the elementals. We're going to see some major, it's going to be weird. So from what I understand, okay, I'm just going to share this with you guys. This is what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not, but, and I remember a few years back, like I had this like kind of panic-stricken message from what I considered aliens. Am I under mind control? Maybe. You know, at this point, like with all the information coming out, okay, maybe aliens is a psyops. Maybe a lot of things are psyops. Maybe they are. So then what do? We kind of like bring it back down to the root of things and be aware of stuff. So this is kind of what I was told. Back then, which was if they're going to try to, because they've been doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of testing, doing a lot of sound stuff, doing a lot of things to test the DNA, specifically of the humans, but also of the earth in general and her many beautiful creatures. And so the download I got back then was they will not let some of the things that were being said that were going to happen, they would not let that happen. There's just no way that would happen. They would stop it. And then galactic beings, aliens as we call them, or us in the future, which is more probable. So the other one is, okay, so there's been talk about, fake aliens. Well, if there's fake aliens, are there really aliens? And why? And I was told, kind of like everything else, like use our discernment, because we do know that they are capable of making things look real. Like you've all seen the jumping whale and the gym floor that looks like it's really splashing in the ocean. So we know they are capable of creating things that will simulate something very realistic. And we have television. We already see that. So that was kind of the message. Like, the government might do that. Governments might do that to try to gain control and use another psyops to throw us into fear. But if you have been contacted by aliens and that type of thing, whether it had been a good experience or a not so good experience or a terrible experience, because some people have terrible experiences, from what I understand, they will know if they are real or not because of what's going on. So just that little, like, just be aware of the patterns. That's like mostly what's happening here is don't you see the patterns? I mean, I think if you're watching this channel, you do see the patterns. But okay, did I Did I do a good job about this? Because this was all talking about the 9-day calendar. Yeah, so I gave you an update about the days. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the new moon, magically, specifically for women and the divine feminine, especially in these times. She's saying in this month of what is named after Augustus Caesar. So what would this month really be called? Maybe like Sumer, like summer, or like, is summer named after Samaria? Oh my gosh, this is just now coming through. Summer. Okay, well, it kind of leads me into the elementals and this time. So this is the time of when we are waking up our elemental gifts. We are elementals. We are primarily water, predominantly water. There's all the scientific proof coming out that like water has been around forever. Well, in the writings, water was already existing. It doesn't say anywhere that so-called God created water, because water is feminine. And so she created herself and then kept creating. And that's the thing. I really do want to start stepping away. I've been a little intimidated to step away completely from the patriarchal aspects of religion. I'm not anymore. I don't want to disrespect what other people believe. I do ask them to question, because even some of I'm going to talk a little bit about it, like Thoth and the writings of Thoth. Not from the Holy Megillah, because I feel like the Holy Megillah at least is a if you haven't checked it out, and I mean, okay, there are some patriarchal things in there. What I support about the Holy Megillah is according to them, they are supposed to honor women and see them equally and give them that honor. And so I find that impressive, because that is one of my critiques about the common popular Bible, is it's all about tearing down the feminine, whereas the Holy Megillah is not. And so I appreciate that, but there are definitely patriarchal aspects. Sure, I don't disagree with that. However, it does really clarify and define certain stories that have been told in the Bible that are just way off and not inclusive of the women at all. And that's something I talked about in one of my videos a long time ago about decoding the Bible, because my theory is all of that it's all the writings, the Kabbalah, the Torah, the Quran. I mean, if you listen to the Holy Megillah, there is a daughter named Quran. I'm pretty sure she's the one who wrote the Quran. This is like information that has just been completely removed. And it talks about the daughters completely. Like, oh my gosh. So, where was I going with this? That I'm letting go of that patriarchal aspect. I can support equanimity in the true reverence of women, and what I think that looks like from men is no manipulation, no manipulative talk where it sounds friendly, but it's actually to invoke a response or a feeling of obligation from a woman. Because a lot of these questions and teachings are dismissive of the woman. And if it was a male in this situation, you wouldn't ask those questions because he wouldn't go for it. You wouldn't be able to use emotional manipulation with a man and ask him these kind of questions that kind of set up the woman. You wouldn't even consider asking them. You manipulate each other a completely different way. And so, no. No. And it's so supported, and now it's like, and this is something to be very careful. If you have gone through trauma and you've been through certain relationships, there can be an energy of those who are attracted to that energy and know how to manipulate it. And they will use trauma or their understanding of trauma or their empathy to trauma in these situations to manipulate the woman. And literally, no. So to me, as long as certain religions and myself and others, when it comes to dismissing the privilege of patriarchy, when it comes to specifically religion and the upliftment and empowerment of women, and this means listening to them, giving them a platform to speak on. If you're speaking with a woman, let her do most of the speaking. If you are a gentleman, you let her do most of the speaking, and then you kind of encourage her and you back her. Go into history and figure out what men used to do to support the great divine feminine, and do it. Consider it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I feel like this is what has to happen. And that with all the information about us being from here and not from Africa, or this being Africa, they still leave out the woman. They still think those are men. They don't see the history that says these clans and tribes were matriarchal. So who are those statues of? Who are all these things about? Just because they look like they were men doesn't mean they were. Doesn't mean they were. Just because the history says that we came from Africa doesn't mean we did. And it's predominantly men who are rereading and rewriting information. So how would they have a perspective to look at women in an equal way when our whole culture has taught them a different pattern? And I'm not saying it's impossible, but they would at least need to be aware of that pattern outside and then reflected within, just like we are, because there are a lot of patriarchal attitudes of women. We'll do a whole nother video on that. So I don't want to take too much of you guys this time. That is my share for today. Kind of came out of nowhere. I want to talk about some other things, but I have other little videos I'll be posting along the way, and yeah. So, hey, I haven't said this in a long time, but thank you to all my subscribers. I'm almost to 400, which is very exciting. So I'd like to promote myself and others. You know, the more we get subscribers and the more shares, then we can become monetized, and be able to, create more support in our own finances so that we can share that with others and continue to kind of uplift ourselves and others. So also check out my Patreon and share each other's on each other's. All right? Or not. Do whatever you want. All right. Until next time. Really out of tune, but the bell was in the background, so that's okay too. Until next time. Take care of yourself.